yes, when when the bridge was, I mean, the railway was being built and everything, it was brutal, but it was brutal on
Right.
everybody. Over 1,000 Japanese soldiers died just building the bridge.
Right.
One over 100,000, almost 100,000 Asian workers died.
Wow.
That's how many people they had working on this bridge. It was like 13,000 British. The
Right.
Americans only had like 1,000 captives. I don't know where they came from, different places. Um, and I think 300 and something of them died. About half, maybe they had 700. 700 Americans were there, and about half of them died. So it was quite a bit. Whereas the British had over 14,000 men there, and like 1,000 and something died. But in all of the Allies, like 16,000 died. The
Right.
Asian workers were like the rest, which is quite a few, and they died of dysentery and diseases and just starvation and everything else.
So, yeah.
So you're just saying they're more hardcore, more brutal.
Well, and when I think they tell about it, or you can kind of see it, but they don't really get into that part.
No, they
Just more.
don't. It's like Colonel Sato. They actually do show but they show such a human side of him. Here's
Yeah.
the guy who's supposed to be the some brutal, prison camp leader, but yet he's taken he's taken under the he's almost hypnotized by this British guy, right?
Right.
But of course he wants to get the job done, and if you take the military part of it out, it's almost like modern business, the way
Yeah.
businesses run, and
Right.
how these business people try to get things running. I mean, the Japanese have become super, or at least at one point, I guess they're still that way, very efficient, right? And that
Right.
was the biggest argument the Japanese had against the movie, or yeah, more the movie than reality, or I don't even the book. Like they said, they never blew up the bridge, and it's just a story, artistic license, right? But in reality, the Japanese thought, well, come on, we have plenty of great engineers, have no problem building a bridge like this, right? And which is in real life is what happened. The Japanese like I said, the Japanese had no problem building a bridge like this. It's just that the soldiers or the prisoners are constantly sabotaging it, right?
Right.
So it's so odd that who knows what I mean, because Boulay actually created this whole idea that the British guy comes in and says that, well, you're not capable of doing this. We're going to have to do it for you, and it becomes
Right.
like a bit of a competition, right? To show you how great the West is compared to the Japanese. You know,
Yeah. If anything, that's probably what the Japanese didn't like.
yeah, that would be the biggest thing. But like you said, they had Colonel Sato. They said every Japanese movie you have a guy crying. Colonel Sato cried, right?
Every time that the Japanese.
It's like, I thought about that because you told me that before when he was sitting there going, you know,
Yeah.
thinking about committing Harry, right? Because of what's going on, being basically being sideswiped by this guy. Um, this is so funny, but in reality, it was like nothing like that. The real Sato, there was a real Sato, but he was a sergeant. He was a major sergeant in the
Right.
camps, and he was actually, they said, very kind to the prisoners, and he was put on a trial for war crimes, and Colonel Toomsey, who was the real character that Colonel Nicholas was based on, um, actually got him off.
Because
Got
they
him off
like.
because he liked him, and they became lifelong friends. So
So.
reality is a lot different than the story. But the story has to be focused. You got to have the bridge blow up at the end. That would have been frustrating. And like in the book, it doesn't blow up. And I remember reading the book. I go, damn, they still didn't blow that bridge up after all that work. It still didn't, which was the whole point of the futility. And they did kind of bring that up at the end with the doctor, right? He goes, madness, madness, right? The whole futility of war. I mean, it's basically an anti-war novel,
Right.
and the book is, I mean, the movie too is basically anti-war, right? You know, just how stupid and insane everything is.
Yeah.
But you see in real life, you see this kind of insanity going on all the time. These crazy projects to get started, and so for somebody's vain ego, right? Now, of course, for the Japanese, it was oh, do you know that the French, the English, and many other foreign engineers they've been planning to try to make that railroad for years from Bangkok to Rangoon, and they all said, "Forget it, it's impossible to do." And the Japanese said, "Hold my beer."
Yeah.
Since you don't want to build it, your engineers will make you build it, right? So they basically enlisted all these. Another thing that they did, that they would go into like places like I guess Singapore or wherever these foreigners are being held captive, and they would go to the sick bays and say, "Oh, we're going to take you to a really nice place where you'll be much more comfortable," and then they stick them on trains and send them up to work on the railroad. Bastards.
The movie was released 12 years after World War II, right?
That's right. That's when I was growing up, it was like I was born like 8 years after the war was over. So everything I watched and everything, the war was still very, very, fresh when I was growing up.
And I think this movie was trying to humanize the Japanese because America was trying to do business with the Japanese, but everybody was like still super mad. So this was also kind of a propaganda for, let's humanize Japanese so we can do business with them.
Right. Well, it's like with Hayakawa, the actor who played Colonel Sato. He was a very famous silent film actor. He came over, and that was different stories. He came over with a Japanese troupe as an actor, and then he was discovered by some film studio. One of his first movies was the Cecil B. DeMille, which was a lot of his movies were lost because a lot of these silent films got burned up or whatever, right, over time because of the kind of film they're using, the nitrate. But one of his first ones, and he was an instant hit. It was like 1914 it was made. That's how old it is. And he became like the first sex symbol of Hollywood. The women loved him.
His look is not really like traditional Japanese, right?
He's full on Japanese. His family was extremely wealthy, evidently, and they wanted to become a lawyer or something like that. And like a lot of rich, families.
He was discovered in Little Tokyo in Los Angeles.
There you go, Little Tokyo. But another story I read, he went to the University of Chicago as to become a lawyer,
right?
And then he didn't like it, and so he ended up joining some acting troupe, and ended up in Little Tokyo, and then that's where he got discovered. Yeah. And then he became very famous. Which I knew none of this stuff. I didn't even know he was and I've actually, you can find some of his movies on YouTube. I'm watching The Daughter of the Dragon with Anna May Wong, who was a very famous. So, and what I'm trying to say is, that's the whole point of this rant, is that at one time America embraced the Asian culture quite a bit, but because of the Depression and then eventually the war, they started having a lot of anti-Asian attitudes, which were never there at one time, right? All that stuff came in later. And so, interestingly enough, Hayakawa went back to Japan and tried to start a movie career there, and he couldn't do it. I don't know why. He just would not get hired. Maybe because he had too many American contacts for that time period, the war and everything.
But yeah, it was supposedly what I read is he was doing odd jobs in Los Angeles while waiting to make enough money to go back to Japan after Chicago. So he was waiting for like whatever, and so then he just did like a couple of acting roles, but he was like a dishwasher and stuff like that.
Right.
And
yeah.
Somebody, I don't know who found him. Doesn't really tell you.
Well, the first movie was with Cecil B. DeMille, The Cheater, I think it was called, and and evidently, I guess this in the one I'm watching, The Daughter of the Dragon, which is about the daughter of Fu Manchu, which is. I love Anna May Wong though. She was an amazing Asian actress. I think she's Chinese descent. But he's supposed to be Chinese in this movie. In the movie, he's supposed to be Chinese. He's a Chinese detective. So he's trying to figure out what's going on with Fu Manchu's daughter, right? But he has that same voice, which amazes me. I said, my God, he sounds just like he did. Because I've watched Bridge of the River Kwai so many times, and that voice he has. like I said, I thought they just found some Japanese actor from Japan and hired him to do it, right? And like I said, I didn't know he had such close Hollywood connections.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, there's a famous casting director. Her name's Kobayashi in Los Angeles, and supposedly the family from that time was always like, like if you need a Japanese actor,
No, I see.
this casting agent.
So it goes all the way back to the time of the silent era, or the early DeMille and all that stuff.
Japan's all about same family stuff, right? They pass it down to the family. So
yeah. It's like